There are moments that split your life into before and after. For Malak, it was 8:03 a.m., a cold Sunday morning at the annual church camping trip. Still half asleep, he picked up a call from an unknown number. On the other end of the line, the voice of the woman he had loved, built with, sacrificed for. "I'm at the airport. I've moved all my things out. I'm flying back to Ghana and I'm not coming back." No warning, no goodbye, just betrayal, cold and clean. In that moment, something inside Malak broke, and something stronger began to take its place. He didn't know it then. But years later, he would see her again. In an airport, alone, different. And this time, it would be him walking away without a second glance. This is the story of how betrayal tried to break a man, but only sharpened him for the greatness he was destined for. Before we dive into this powerful story, hit the like button. Drop a comment if you've ever had to rebuild yourself after betrayal, and subscribe for more real stories that move your soul. Now, let's start at the beginning of how Malak gave everything to build a future, only to find himself rebuilding a life alone. Business was thriving, their dreams were unfolding, and so the husband and wife took what would become their final trip to Ghana together, though the husband had no idea it would be their last. While there, they met with many of her family's powerful connections, business leaders, health officials, community figures, setting the groundwork to expand their growing medical practice internationally. They smiled, they shook hands, they toasted to the future. Together, they were preparing to build an empire, but only one of them was truly committed to that vision. Unbeknownst to the husband, even as he dreamed of partnership and legacy, his wife was laying the foundations for betrayal. The plot had already begun. Over the next 5 months, the life he thought he was building would be carefully, surgically dismantled from within. When they returned home to Arizona, the change was immediate. The marriage, once filled with laughter and passion, began to rot from the inside. Arguments sprang up for no reason. Petty grievances turned into heated nights of silence. Their intimacy evaporated. Touch became mechanical, if it happened at all. Desire was replaced by duty, affection replaced by distance. What once was vibrant had now become a chore, and the man who had poured everything into their future was left wondering what invisible force had stolen the woman he once knew. They were supposed to be building something historic. That was the dream. That was the promise. Brick by brick, life by life, together. Their brand, their future, their empire was supposed to stretch across continents, built on the sacrifice they had both endured, built on love, or so he thought. In the bedroom, the connection was gone. Not slow, not gradual, gone. Intimacy became a transaction. Affection became obligation. The woman he once chased around the house with laughter now treated their moments of closeness like clocking in for a shift at a job she hated. And the worst part? He didn't even know why. There was no betrayal he could point to. No major argument he could rewind back to. Just a creeping coldness, a slow emotional suffocation. A distance that no amount of patience, kindness, or conversations could bridge. The months leading up to October became a slow death. They were supposed to return to Ghana before the church camping trip, secure her medical license overseas, take the next step toward global expansion. It should have been a victory lap. Instead, Malak could feel it in his bones. If they boarded that plane together, he would lose her forever. There were moments, small but sharp, that told him. The way she would light up texting someone else but grow dull when he spoke. The way her eyes would glaze over when he mapped out future plans. The way she stopped talking about us and started saying I. He wasn't paranoid, he was watching something die right in front of him, and he couldn't save it. So he made the hard call. He told her no. We're not going back to Ghana right now. We need to fix us first. Not as a punishment, not as a control tactic, out of love, out of desperation. But to her it was betrayal. At least once a month after that, she would casually bring it up. So, about Ghana, testing him, pushing, and every time Malak stayed rooted in the uncomfortable truth. We fix us first. But she wasn't trying to fix anything. She was already halfway out the door. When she couldn't convince him, she escalated. She brought in her father, a man with power, a man with pride, a man not used to being told no. The judge called Malak personally, pleaded with him, tried to use reason, then guilt, then pressure. She's a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. Malak was calm, respectful, but immovable. You're right. She is a grown woman, and if she leaves this house to go back to Ghana, she can't come back to my house. It wasn't a threat. It was a line in the sand, because by now in his spirit Malak knew. If she left, she wasn't coming back the same. If she left, he wouldn't have a wife anymore. 3 weeks before the camping trip, the house felt colder than winter. Words became weapons, silence became torture. He couldn't even recognize her anymore, but he stayed, prayed, fought, tried to love her through the invisible war he didn't understand. The week before the trip, the dam broke. Another argument, another night of shattered peace. So he left, went to stay at a married friend's house, someone who understood the quiet desperation of trying to hold a family together with bloodied hands. That night he lay awake on a couch that wasn't his, staring at a ceiling he didn't recognize, wondering when his home stopped feeling like home. The next morning she called, her voice soft, shaky, false. She said she was at the doctor, massive headaches, needed to rest, had a follow-up appointment scheduled for Monday, the day after the trip started. And even though something deep inside him stirred in warning, he ignored it. He went home, checked on her, still angry, still hurt, but disciplined enough to put his pain on hold to be a husband. She assured him, I'll catch a ride to the camping grounds with one of the sisters. Everything seemed plausible, predictable, safe. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. Monday came, no appointment. Rescheduled to Wednesday, she said. Wednesday came. Another conflict, she said. Friday came. Still no appointment, still no answers, still no wife. And by Friday night, Malak sat alone at the campfire, staring into the flames, feeling a loneliness he couldn't put into words. Something was wrong. He just didn't know how wrong. Then Sunday morning, 8:03 a.m., the phone buzzed, an unknown number. He picked up, still half asleep. Her voice pierced him before the words even fully registered. I'm at Chicago O'Hare. I'm flying to Ghana. I've moved all my things out. I'm not coming back. He sat up in the tent like he had been struck by lightning. Shock rolled through his body in waves. Not sadness, not anger. Something deeper, something colder. Betrayal, clean, surgical, complete. He realized in that moment, this had been the plan all along. The patience, the fake smiles, the headaches, the father's call. It wasn't random. It wasn't sudden. It was orchestrated. And he was the fool who didn't see the puppet strings until the show was already over. Still half-dressed, heart in pieces, Malak wandered to the campfire where his brothers sat. He told them. They listened. Some were shocked, some weren't. They offered comfort, words of wisdom, jokes to lighten the crushing atmosphere, but none of it mattered, because behind Malak's forced smile, behind his steady voice, they saw the truth. They saw a man bleeding out in silence, a man who had lost not just his marriage, but a part of himself. It was mid-November when she reached out again. A Tuesday afternoon, the kind of gray, heavy day that made everything feel heavier than it already was. Her voice on the phone was mechanical, forced friendliness stitched over something colder. She said she wanted to talk about the business, not their marriage, not what she had done, just the business. "We'll talk about the marriage later," she said. "We'll have a council with the pastors on Saturday." Malak, holding on to the last threads of hope, agreed. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't yet see, was that the counseling was never real. It was a smokescreen. The marriage wasn't just struggling. In her mind, it was already dead. The next day, she asked him to meet her at a coffee shop, public, neutral, a place where emotional outbursts couldn't happen. She was planning this too carefully. When Malak arrived, he saw her sitting near the window, wearing one of her traditional Ghanaian garments, wrapped in culture, shielded in familiarity. But something was wrong. He noticed it instantly, the nervousness, the way she kept her hands hidden beneath the table, the way her fingers trembled when she thought he wasn't looking. He sat down across from her, quiet, observant, holding the storm inside him like a man bottled in a hurricane. Without much preamble, she spoke. "The business name, the website, you can have all of it. I no longer want to be in business with you. And I don't want to talk about our marriage either." Her words were clipped, her breathing shallow. Malak stayed silent, stone still. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew. One wrong move, one flash of anger, and everything he built as a man would crumble. He stayed stoic, calm. Then she repeated it, more firmly this time. "You can have all of it. I don't want it to be said that you made me." And there it was, the knife. Not just betrayal, erasure, the attempt to rewrite history, to erase the years he had spent molding a future she now pretended she built alone. Malak's mind flashed back, unbidden, to 3 years earlier. He remembered the kitchen table conversations. She was still a student then, second-year medical school, still unsure, still human. And he, always the visionary, had floated the idea to her. "Start a YouTube channel now. Document your journey. Inspire people. Let them see you grow." She frowned at him, dismissed him, made him feel foolish for suggesting it. He remembered that look, the one that cut deeper than any words. But he also remembered why he said it. Because he believed in her. Because he saw a future that fear was blinding her from seeing. She didn't believe in herself, but he did. He had over 16 years of marketing experience under his belt. He had made other people millions with his ideas. But when it came to the woman he loved, the woman he sacrificed for, he couldn't get through. Not with reason, not with love, not with loyalty. Because pride is deaf to the voice of wisdom. Because fear, when left unchecked, mutates into resentment. Still sitting at the coffee shop, still listening to her rewrite history in real time, Malak stayed silent. He thought back to the plan they had made years earlier, before the world and money and status clouded the dream. It was supposed to be simple. She would bring the medicine, he would bring the marketing. Together they would change lives. It sounded perfect, until reality set in. During her third year of medical school, he saw it happening. Her colleagues, the ones who had dreamed of being healers, were graduating into debt, fear, and Uber jobs. Because naturopathic medicine didn't guarantee success. Because insurance didn't cover most of it. Because building a private practice was a brutal uphill climb, and only the bold survived it. Fear gripped her like a vice, and instead of leaning into the man who had a blueprint for survival, she leaned away, blaming him, resenting him, for a future she was too scared to chase without guarantees. But Malak, he wasn't afraid of the unknown. He was a builder, a strategist, a survivor. He had lived without safety nets his whole life. That's why he had been planning, why he had been saving, why he had pushed her to brand herself early, before the diploma, before the title. Because he knew the world wasn't waiting for her credentials, it was waiting for her presence. But she never understood that. Or maybe she did. And she hated that it came from him. Now sitting across from her at the coffee shop, hearing her say, "I don't want it to be said that you made me," he realized she wasn't just leaving the marriage. She was trying to take the story with her. She was trying to erase him from her rise. And yet, he didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't beg for credit. He just watched her, watched the hands trembling under the table, watched the eyes dart away when he held her gaze too long, watched the woman he had once dreamed of growing old with become a stranger he barely recognized. And when she asked, "Do you have anything to say?" he smiled, not out of joy, not out of forgiveness, but out of the quiet, resolute grief of a man who had already buried the woman sitting in front of him. No. He stood up, calm, silent, immovable, and without looking back, without giving her the satisfaction of seeing his heart break again, Malak walked out of the coffee shop and into the beginning of his resurrection. But what she didn't know is that her plan to erase him was just the start. And what's coming next will change everything.